Many pilots only got a 2-hour iPad course before entering the cockpit for the first time. And the training material didn't mention the MCAS software. In 2018, several American pilots complained to the federal government that the 737 MAX was suddenly nosing down. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610 took off from Jakarta. In the flight report, which shows the plane's altitude over time, you can see that the plane was in full thrust during takeoff. But at a certain point, the nose of the plane kept lurching downward. The pilots couldn't figure out why this was happening. The captain asked the first officer to check the quick reference handbook. They couldn't find the solution. The pilots continued to fight with the MCAS. The plane struggled to gain altitude. Reports show it was likely because the computer was getting incorrect sensor data, pushing the plane toward the earth below. 12 minutes after takeoff, the plane crashed into the Java Sea. In the Ethiopia crash, the report shows that the pilots were actually able to disable the MCAS, but it was too late to overcome the malfunctioning MCAS sensors. For now, nearly every 737 MAX 8 in service has been grounded, and the Federal Aviation Administration is facing scrutiny over how they rush this plane through certification. Boeing's response has been to apply a software update that makes the MCAS less aggressive, while also saying they'll increase pilot training on how to turn it off. This problem started with the company's race to compete with its rival. It pushed them to pretend like their new plane behaved exactly like their old one, even when it didn't.
So, other than the technical factors, what were the problems? Yes. So, nobody communicated with the stakeholders, the pilots. Also, the civil aviation didn't know about the changes. Also, this was not mentioned in the handbook. And another item is, okay, there was another item, I just forgot. But you can find this video in YouTube and check the details of this. So here, one problem was that they did not communicate with the stakeholders. So these problems actually, the scenarios we discussed earlier, those scenarios does not only happen to small companies or small organizations or startups. These problems with requirement management occurs in all big organizations, multinational organizations, everywhere. So there are many examples like Facebook, YouTube, or other big organizations had products which were not very long-term used and were closed. So what were the problems? We already discussed that it was problem with effective requirement management. What is effective requirement management? We will just slightly go through it. This is a systematic process of gathering the requirements, defining it, refining it, organizing and documenting the requirements, prioritizing the requirements, manage stakeholder expectations, alignment with stakeholders, also the development team and everyone involved, validating product against requirements, tracking and controlling the requirement changes. And there are many other factors. It's a vast area. But what does effective requirement provide us? It delivers value. In case of the plane, all planes were grounded. So did it deliver value? Not actually. So it helps in clear definition. So everybody knows what we are building, what changes we are making. We can do better scope control, better planning and estimation. When we know the scope better, we understand the requirement better, we can do better planning and better estimation. Enhanced product quality. The QA developer both knows what they are building and what changes they are making so they can test better, build better. Traceability. What changes we are making in the requirements from the beginning to the end. Faster development, we already talked. Better prioritization. So when you know what value these features will bring, helps us to better prioritize. Improved communication. So when everyone is on the same page, there is improved communication. In Scrum, who is responsible to manage the requirements effectively? It's the whole Scrum team. It's a collaborative approach. But if we look into each role's responsibilities, what do we find? The product owner ensures value, define the sprint goal, manage the product backlog, prioritize requirements. He is the primary contact between the stakeholders and the team, development team. Collaborates with the team to understand the requirements, monitor progress, inspects and gather customer feedback. And he also says no when necessary. What does the Scrum Master do? He facilitates the Scrum events, especially here the planning, sprint planning, the refinement sessions, facilitates backlog refinements, ensure time boxing, remove any impediments. What are the responsibilities of the development team? They collaborate with the product owner to clarify requirements, decompose the stories into smaller actionable units, provide estimation, provide feedback, focus on executable requirements. So if we look into the product owner's responsibilities, what do we find? It's just the same as effective requirement management, right? So although it's the full Scrum team's responsibility, but the product owner plays a central figure in this requirement management. So we know how important requirement management is, and we also understand that the product owner's responsibility here, but still some people will go directly to the development team. Why? Hierarchical influence. This is the first example I started with. The CEO going to the developers directly. Desire for speed and control. Some people think that if we remove the middle layer and go to the development team directly, then maybe we will get things done earlier. Personal relationship. This is the example where the developer makes the changes silently and nobody knows what changes were made. Strong personal feeling unheard or overruled. One of the key responsibility of the product owner we discussed is saying no when necessary. So maybe the product owner said no and the person thinks that his ideas were not heard. So what he can do, he will go to the developers directly and try to get things done. Strong personal opinions and preferences. There are some people who never, who will always like to get their things done. So no matter how you explain them, they will, however, try to reach the developers and want their expectations get met. To achieve personal KPIs. In organizations, we have our KPIs, and some people will prioritize those KPIs against the value of the product. What happens when the PO is unaware of the requirements? So we discussed why they will go direct. So now they have come directly, and now the PO is unaware of the requirements. What can happen? Impact on the business value. The requirements we are serving may not have enough customer value. Different stakeholders sharing different requirements. Nobody knows whether it adds value or not, and we may flood the system with features which may be never used and make the system may make the system not user friendly. When the product owner is not aware of the requirements, the team may get diluted from the vision and goals. The team may end up building something different from the strategic goal. Inefficiency and rework. So there are unclear requirements, stakeholders sharing requirements, and there is no refinement because the product owner doesn't know what's going on. So if it is not refined, that means we are working on, we may be getting some requirements, working on it, then we are getting some feedback, we are working on it again. So requirements are always changing and we are doing a lot of rework. And this creates inefficiency. Work overload. When we rework and also get new requirements constantly, of course, the team will be overloaded. Misaligned expectations. Different stakeholders, different expectations. We cannot bring all stakeholders to come to one goal. Trust issues and conflict. If the vision is diluted, there is no goal. Inefficiency and rework is there. Work overload is there. There are misaligned expectations. Then conflict and trust issues will definitely occur. So how can we regulate this problem? We cannot totally stop these problems from happening, but we can regulate it. Establish clear requirement sharing process and educate the stakeholders on the process. So we need to set up a standard process for sharing the requirements. How the requirements will be shared? Is it through email? Is it in the Jira board or Trello board or something else? How will they communicate this to the product owner? Centralized requirement, single point of contact. We need to communicate that product owner is the single point of contact, and the tool we are using, it can be Jira, Trello, or anything else, is our single source of truth. So if any requirement not in the tool or whatever we are using, then the requirement has never been placed. Ensure regular Scrum events and backlog refinements. So sprint planning, sprint review, retrospective, and backlog refinements, if we arrange them regularly, the stakeholders may feel that we are listening to them. And this will help them better understand why their requirements has been prioritized or deprioritized. Engage stakeholders where necessary and follow strict time boxing. And so we need to respect the process, embrace the roles, enable transparency, and aim for value. Thank you.